On the day my sister Lydia married, she made sure I was humiliated. She seated me alone at the back of the wedding hall, next to the swinging kitchen doors where waiters rushed past. No partner, no family near me, just me, displayed like an afterthought in her perfect day. Before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe. Drop a comment, where are you watching from? My name is Evelyn. I am 34 years old. The day was sunny, bright. Too bright for how I felt inside. The chair I sat on was hard. It was gold, but felt like concrete. Table 12. It was pushed into the corner. A wall of heavy velvet curtains was on one side. The kitchen doors were on the other. They were metal doors, heavy, swinging open and shut every few seconds. Whoosh, bang, whoosh, bang. I smelled grease. I smelled old cleaning supplies. I could hear the cook yelling, "Order up! Table 3 needs bread!" This was my view, my soundtrack. I was not at the wedding. I was near the service entrance. I looked at the place setting. A fancy white charger plate. 3 forks. I wouldn't use any of them. I picked up the wine glass. It was empty. I put it down. Everything felt wrong. Lydia was at table 1, the head table. It was like a movie set. Flowers everywhere. Candles. A giant cake. My parents sat there. Mom wore a bright blue dress. Dad wore his best suit. They looked proud. They looked happy. They looked like a perfect family, except for the missing piece. Mom kept turning her head. Her eyes found me. She gave me a small, sad look. A look of apology, but it was silent. It was weak. It meant nothing. She knew where I was. She knew why I was there. She was doing nothing to fix it. I saw her lean over and whisper to Dad. Dad just shook his head. He didn't look at me. He looked at his silverware. He always did that. When things were hard, he looked at something else. He looked away from me. I wanted to stand up. I wanted to walk over to table 1. I wanted to say, why? Why do you let her do this? But I didn't move. My feet felt heavy. Cement shoes. I just sat. I just watched. Lydia and I were never close. We shared a room growing up, but we didn't share a life. She was loud. She was popular. She was always the one everyone noticed. I was quiet. I read books. I stayed in my corner. Even then, she found ways to hurt me. Small cuts. Day after day. When she got engaged to Richard, the cuts became deeper. They sharpened. The wedding was her final project. Her masterpiece of public cruelty. It started with the planning. She would call me, not to ask my opinion, but to remind me of my failure. "Mom is helping me choose linens today," she'd say, her voice high and sweet. She said it's nice to finally plan a wedding. She meant her wedding, not mine. She meant I would never have one. I was working hard then. I had a good job. I was a manager. I was proud of my life, but that never mattered to her. One time, we were shopping for her bridesmaid dresses. I stood in the dressing room. The fabric was rough. I felt fat in the satin. "Evelyn," she said, leaning in close. "You know, you should really start focusing on your personal life. You're 34 and still single." Her words were not advice. They were a hammer. They hit me right in the chest. "I am fine, Lydia," I said. My voice was thin. Too thin. She just looked at me. Then she smiled. It was that smirk. The one that made me feel like an insect. "Mom worries. Dad worries. You can't be happy just with your job, can you? Don't you want a family?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, my job is the only thing that doesn't judge me. But I just stood there. I let her win. I let her carve out a piece of my happiness. That memory came back to me now, sitting at table 12. The grease smell from the kitchen doors mixed with the cloying sweetness of the cake icing. It made me feel sick. I watched Mom and Dad. They were laughing at something Richard's dad said. They looked so carefree. It was easy for them to laugh. They had the golden child, Lydia, who did everything right. Married Richard, got the house, got the perfect life. I was the error. I was the project that failed. I remembered the morning of the wedding. She called me at 7 a.m. I was ironing my dress. "Evelyn," she chirped. Just a reminder. We have a lot of important people here. Richard's company executives, old family friends. Try not to look miserable in the photos. I held the phone tight. "I won't," I said. My voice was steady. It surprised me. "Good," she said. "Just smile. Fake it if you have to. We don't want to ruin the album, okay? Love you." She hung up before I could answer. She never waited for my answer. "Love you." It was a lie. A word she used to put a period on her cruelty. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking slightly. I took a sip of water. It was cold. It tasted like metal. A waiter pushed the door open. Bang! He carried a huge tray of champagne flutes. He looked stressed. I envied him. At least he had a job to do. At least he was useful. I was just taking up space. I looked at my phone. Should I just leave? Just walk out the back door? Text Mom later. Felt sick. Had to go. But a voice in my head, my own voice, stopped me. No, you will not let her win. If you leave, you confirm what she believes. That you are weak. That you cannot handle a simple dinner. So I stayed. I sat straight up. I smoothed my dress. I put a small, tight smile on my face. It was the smile she had asked for. Fake. But it was also a shield. Then the music changed. The dinner service began. The room got louder. The laughing grew louder. The whoosh, bang of the kitchen doors was constant now. My heart was beating fast. I knew what was coming next. The parade. The time when Lydia would seek me out. She wouldn't be satisfied with my isolation. She needed to perform my sadness for the audience. She needed to drag me to the light, not to help me, but to show everyone my defects. I saw her starting her rounds, white dress flowing, Richard behind her. The perfect couple. They were moving through the tables. Table 11, table 10, getting closer. My breathing got shallow. I felt like I was back in the 7th grade, waiting for her to announce my embarrassing secret to the whole bus. She finally reached me. She didn't come to my table. She stopped at table 11, right next to mine, but facing away from me. She spoke loudly. She was talking to Richard's great-aunt Carol. Great-aunt Carol was judging everyone. I knew it. Oh, Carol, yes, everything is perfect. Just perfect, Lydia was saying. Then she paused, turning slightly, her eyes landing on me. She didn't look at my face. She looked at my empty seat next to me. Oh, and this is Evelyn, she said, pulling me into the conversation without actually walking over. It was a verbal lasso. My sister. Evelyn, say hello to Carol. I gave the fake smile. Hello, Carol. Aunt Carol was wearing too much perfume. She squinted at me. She didn't smile back. Evelyn is still focusing on her career, Lydia announced loudly. The word career hung in the air like a bad joke. It meant no husband. It meant no future. Aunt Carol leaned toward me. She had a thick gold bracelet. It clinked when she moved. Such a shame, dear, she said, her voice dripping with pity. A lovely girl like you. You should really think about settling down. The clock is ticking, you know. The clock is ticking. I heard that phrase 1,000 times. Every holiday, every family gathering. It was the theme song of my life. I swallowed hard. I'm happy with where I am, Aunt Carol. The words felt forced. They tasted like rust. Lydia jumped in before Carol could answer. Oh, she is. She just needs to relax. Maybe lower the standards a little. Richard has a cousin, you know. Arthur. He works in accounting. A little bald, but a good man. Maybe you two should— Lydia, I interrupted. My voice was firm this time. I looked her right in the eye. I'm fine. I'm enjoying the dinner. Please go enjoy your night. That surprised her. The smirk faltered. Just for a second, she quickly recovered. She patted my arm, patronizing, like I was a sad little dog. Of course, dear. We just want you to be happy. Then she pulled Richard away. They walked back to the head table. I watched them go. My heart was still racing. I felt sick. My cheeks were burning. But I hadn't cried. I hadn't run away. I had stood up for myself. I had used 5 simple words. I'm fine. I'm enjoying the dinner. It felt like a war won. A small war, fought alone, next to the kitchen door. But the feeling of victory was short-lived. Aunt Carol just shook her head at me. Such a good girl, she mumbled to herself, loud enough for me to hear. Too focused on the wrong things. The waiter came back. He placed a plate in front of me. The dry chicken. The cold vegetables. I stared at it. I could not eat. I felt like a circus act. A specimen on display. The old maid sister. The one who failed at life. This was Lydia's show, and I was the main feature of her humiliation exhibit. I closed my eyes for a moment. I needed air. I needed to escape the smell, the noise, the pity. I remembered another conversation. Just 2 months ago, I was at my parents' house for Sunday dinner. Lydia was there, complaining about wedding planning. The catering is so expensive, she whined. Dad, can you maybe cover the open bar? It's the one thing everyone remembers. Dad looked tired. I don't know, honey. That's a lot of money. Then Lydia looked at me, a sudden sharp idea in her eyes. Evelyn, you make good money. You have no husband, no kids, nothing to spend it on. Why don't you pay for the bar as a wedding gift? A big one. I was shocked. Lydia, that is not fair. Mom jumped in, not to defend me, to calm Lydia. Evelyn, dear, it would be a nice gesture for your sister. She is having a hard time. She is getting married. She is not having a hard time. I stood up. My chair scraped the floor. I have my own bills. My own life. I just bought a new car. The music swelled again. The DJ announced the speeches. Richard stood up. He was sweet. He talked about Lydia's beautiful smile. He talked about her perfect family. He didn't mention me, not even a simple thank you to his sister-in-law. I was invisible. That was the deepest cut of all. I wasn't the enemy. I was nothing. I picked up my phone. I wrote a text to my friend Sarah. I need to leave. I didn't send it. I couldn't. I stayed for the next performance. The bouquet toss. I knew that would be bad. It would be worse than the lonely seat. It would be Lydia's final, perfect act of humiliation. I braced myself. I felt the familiar burn in my chest. I was ready for the pain, but I was not ready for the stranger. I watched the clock on the wall. The time was dragging. Every second was painful. I kept telling myself, hold on, be strong, just get through the night. The quiet resolve was the only thing holding me together. This lonely seat was my punishment, but it was also my crucible. I was being tested. I just didn't know yet that the test was about to change. The speeches ended. The dinner plates were cleared. I hoped the worst was over. I was wrong. Lydia was not finished with me yet. The music started again. People pushed their chairs back. The dance floor filled up. I stayed in my corner, at table 12. I watched. Lydia appeared. She was walking with Richard's cousin, Robert. Robert was a man in his late 50s, too tall. He had a weak handshake when I met him earlier. He owned 3 car dealerships. Lydia's voice was high and false. Evelyn, dear, she called out. She walked right up to my table. She didn't sit down. She made me look up at her. She made me feel small. Robert, this is my sister Evelyn, she announced. She's a high-powered manager. So focused on her work, she loves her job. She said loves her job like it was a disease. Like it was the thing that ruined my life. Robert smiled a polite, fake smile. A manager, that's wonderful. So demanding, I hear. Lydia cut in before I could speak. It is. That's why she hasn't had much time for settling down. She was laying it on thick. She was performing for Robert, and for the whole corner of the room. Richard's wealthy relatives were watching us. I could feel their eyes. They were judging my dress. They were judging my life. Robert leaned in. His voice was low and condescending. Listen, Evelyn, you're a nice-looking girl, but you're 34, right? Time is a factor. You can't wait forever for Mr. Perfect. I clenched my jaw. I wanted to tell him to mind his own business. I wanted to tell him that my career made me happy, that I paid my own bills, that I did not need his car dealership advice on my love life, but I just nodded. I knew Lydia wanted a fight. I knew she wanted me to look angry, to look unstable. I would not give her that. Thank you for the advice, Robert, I said. My voice was calm, too calm. It felt like a mask. Lydia stepped closer. She placed her hand on my shoulder. It was heavy. It felt like a cage. She's just a little shy about it, Lydia told Robert. I keep telling her, try the apps. Try the church groups. Just lower the standards a little. That's what Mom always told me. She used Mom's name to give her cruelty authority. It was a dirty trick, and it worked. It hurt. Robert patted my arm. Pity. It was a terrible feeling. Worse than anger. It made me feel useless. Don't lose hope, sweetheart, he said. Maybe a younger man? They don't mind the age gap as much. Good luck. They walked away. Lydia gave me another one of her knowing smirks. A quick flash of white teeth. I got you. I looked around the room. I felt hot. I felt like the whole room knew my secret. The secret that I was alone. The secret that my family thought I was a failure. The photographer came to our table next. He was a young man with a large camera. He was taking pictures of Richard's family. Table 12, group shot, he called out. The group shot was just me. He looked at my table setting. He looked at the single chair I was sitting in. He frowned. Ma'am, do you have a +1 joining you? He asked. No, I said. My voice was a whisper. He looked confused. But the layout shows this table is for 4. Are you waiting for your party? No, I said, a little louder this time. It's just me. He lowered his camera. He looked genuinely sorry. Oh, okay. Well, let me just get a nice shot of you enjoying the night then. He raised the camera. I tried to smile. The smile was fake. It hurt my cheeks. The flash went off. I blinked. I felt like a zoo animal, a circus act. He asked 2 more times if I was sure I didn't have a date. He was trying to be kind, but his kindness just made the situation worse. It highlighted my empty chair. It highlighted my lonely life. Why do I stay? I asked myself this again. The answer was stupid. I stayed for my parents. I stayed because if I left, Lydia would tell everyone I ran away crying. She would win the final game. I decided to go to the ladies' room. I needed to escape the noise. I needed to splash cold water on my face. I needed to stop the heat in my cheeks. I stood up. I walked past the tables. I kept my eyes on the floor. I did not want to make eye contact with anyone else. I did not want any more pity. As I walked, I heard snippets of conversations. That's Evelyn, the sister. Still single, you know. Always wondered why she couldn't keep a man. They were quiet words, whispers. But in the loud hall, they felt like screams. I reached the bathroom. I locked myself in a stall. I sat down on the closed lid. I put my head in my hands. I breathed deeply. Stop it, Evelyn. Stop being a victim. But I couldn't. She made me a victim. She carved this role out for me. She kept me here. She kept me small. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My dress was nice. My makeup was perfect. But my eyes looked defeated. They looked like the eyes of a woman who was tired of fighting her own family. I washed my hands. I took a deep breath. I walked back out. I had to face the music. Literally. The DJ was making another announcement. His voice boomed over the speakers. All right, ladies. It's that time. All the beautiful single women get on the dance floor. Get ready to catch the bouquet. I froze. The bouquet toss. I had forgotten. This was Lydia's grand finale. The final, sharpest knife. I tried to hide behind a group of people. I moved toward a potted palm tree. I wanted to blend into the scenery. It was too late. I was too slow. Lydia's maid of honor, her best friend Charlotte, spotted me. Charlotte was like a smaller, slightly less cruel version of Lydia. She always followed Lydia's orders. Charlotte grabbed my wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Come on, Evelyn! You have to participate, she chirped. She was smiling, but her eyes were cold. She was enjoying this too. No, Charlotte. I don't want to. I pulled my arm back. Nonsense. She laughed. A loud fake sound. Lydia needs every single lady out here. It's tradition. She yanked me forward. I stumbled onto the dance floor. It felt like walking onto a stage under a spotlight. Everyone was watching. The group of single women was small, maybe 10 of us. Most of them were teenagers. Richard's younger cousins. I was the oldest one there by far. I stood out. I was the one who should have been married already. I was the one who was the punchline. Lydia was on the stage, in the center of the room. She was holding the huge bouquet of white roses. She was glowing. She looked like a queen. She scanned the crowd of women. Her eyes found mine. She gave me that look again. The cruel, knowing smirk. The look that said, watch this. This is for you. The DJ started a drum roll. Are you ready, ladies? Lydia turned her back to us. She counted to 3. I stood there stiff. My hands were at my sides. I was not going to reach for the flowers. I was not going to participate in my own mockery. I looked at Lydia's back. I saw her shoulders tense. I saw her turn her head slightly to peek. She was aiming. She was aiming to miss me. Deliberately, she spun around. She threw the bouquet. It flew high in the air. It sailed in a perfect arc. It came down, not near me, not even close. It landed in the hands of a 16-year-old cousin named Madison. Madison screamed with delight. The crowd cheered. The drum roll ended. Lydia turned, and she looked right at me. She threw her head back and laughed. It was a loud, triumphant laugh. Then she spoke, loud enough for the microphone to pick it up. Guess Evelyn will have to wait longer. The crowd laughed. Not a kind laugh. A sharp, uncomfortable burst of sound. The kind of laugh you make at a mean joke. I felt the blood drain from my face. My chest was tight. It didn't just burn, it ached. It was a deep physical pain. This was it. The public shame was complete. She had called me out. She had confirmed my failure to everyone in the room. She had made me the joke of her perfect day. I felt tears finally welling up. Hot tears of humiliation and raw pain. I hated the feeling of them. I hated that she had the power to make me feel this way. I turned quickly. I needed to get out. I needed to run. I pushed past Charlotte. I walked fast toward the back of the room. I was ready to burst through the kitchen doors and just keep running. I didn't care anymore about what anyone thought. I just needed air. I just needed to be away from her. I was clutching my purse so tightly my knuckles hurt. I could hear the music fading behind me. I could hear the distant roar of the crowd. I was almost there, almost to the door. I was focusing on the floor, focusing on the pattern of the carpet, one foot in front of the other. Just go. Then I heard it. A voice. It was deep. It was calm. It was right behind my ear. It cut through the noise of the hall like a clean knife. Act like you're with me. The simple, direct command stopped me dead. I froze. I did not move. I did not know this voice. I did not know what it meant. I slowly turned my head. My heart hammered against my ribs. I looked up. He was there. He was tall. Very tall. He was broad-shouldered. He wore a dark, perfectly tailored suit. He looked expensive. He looked strong. He was looking right at me. His eyes were light brown. They were steady and calm. He didn't wait for me to answer. He sat down smoothly in the empty chair at table 12, the chair Lydia had meant to stay empty. He draped his arm on the back of my chair. He smiled. Not a forced smile. A genuine, easy smile. It was as if he was exactly where he was supposed to be. As if we had known each other forever. The heat of the humiliation was still on my cheeks, but the cold confidence of this stranger was starting to push it away. He was not looking at the kitchen doors. He was looking out at the room. He was looking at the crowd. He was looking at Lydia. My escape was ruined, but my shame was suddenly on pause. I waited. I did not understand what was happening, but for the first time all night I felt a flicker of hope. A small, dangerous, exciting flicker. I froze when the man whispered the words, "Act like you're with me." I turned my head slowly. He was still smiling. His smile was easy, relaxed. It was the smile of someone who had a plan. A good plan. He looked at me quickly. He saw the tears I was fighting. He saw the hot shame on my face. His expression didn't change. No pity, just a sense of purpose. "I'm William," he said smoothly. He didn't offer a hand. He didn't need to. His presence was enough. Richard's cousin. I saw the show. It was a bad show. I just stared at him. I couldn't speak. My mind was moving too fast. Richard's cousin? I didn't see him before. Why is he doing this? "Lydia," he continued, keeping his voice low, a deep rumble that only I could hear. "She likes to perform. We are going to change the script. Right now." He sat back in the chair. He made himself comfortable. He draped his arm on the back of my chair. It felt heavy, grounding, protective. I was still rigid. "I don't understand," I finally managed. My voice was husky. He looked out across the room, past the dancing crowd, straight toward the head table. "You don't need to understand. You just need to look happy. Look annoyed even. Act like I interrupted something important. But not sad. Never sad." He leaned closer. "Tell me your name." "Evelyn," I whispered. "Evelyn," he repeated. The name sounded good when he said it. Strong. "We have been talking all night. Since the ceremony. We are reconnecting after years apart. You are a very private person, Evelyn. Remember that. You keep your life away from the family circus." He didn't need to tell me to act. The sheer shock of the moment made me stop crying. The shame was pushed down by confusion and a growing, dangerous hope. Within minutes, eyes turned toward us. It started small. A head turned from Aunt Carol at table 11. She frowned. She looked at William. She looked at me. She looked at the empty chair where he should not be sitting. William didn't care. He picked up my empty water glass. He signaled a waiter without looking away from me. The waiter came over instantly. The kitchen door whoosh banged open, but this time I barely noticed. "Get my friend here a glass of champagne," William told the waiter. "The good stuff. And bring me a whiskey." He looked at me. "Do you drink champagne, Evelyn?" "Sometimes," I said. It was the first normal word I had spoken all night. William turned back to the waiter. "She drinks it tonight." The order was clear. The waiter rushed away. This simple act changed everything. I was no longer the lonely girl at the service entrance. I was a person with a request. A person who was being taken care of. The whispers started again. But this time they were different. They were curious. Not pitying. I saw Mom turn. She looked at our corner. Her eyes widened. She nudged Dad. Dad finally looked up from his plate. He squinted across the room. He saw William. He looked confused. William leaned in again. He lowered his voice. "Look at your sister." Look now, I did. Lydia was at the edge of the dance floor talking to Richard. She was laughing too loud. She was performing the perfect bride. Then she noticed. She felt the shift in attention. Her eyes scanned the room. They landed on our table. Her perfect bride's smile cracked for the first time. It was a small thing. A tiny flicker in her expression. But I saw it. The joy drained out. It was replaced by confusion, then rage. She hated not knowing. She hated not controlling the narrative. She said something sharp to Richard. She straightened her dress. She started walking toward us. She walked with purpose, like a general toward a sudden, unexpected enemy camp. My heart hammered again. But this time it was adrenaline, not fear. William kept talking to me softly. "Don't break eye contact with her. You have to look like you're having the most interesting conversation of your life." Lydia arrived at our table. She stood beside William. She was breathing fast. Her face was flushed. "William?" she said, her voice strained, but still trying to be sweet. "I didn't see you come in. You didn't even say hello." William stood up. He was taller than I thought. He towered over the table. He stood close to me. He put his hand lightly on my back. "Hello, Lydia," he said. His voice was cold, businesslike. He didn't sound like a wedding guest. He sounded like a CEO dismissing a minor problem. "And who is this?" Lydia asked, her eyes darting to me. She knew exactly who I was. She was mocking the situation. "Evelyn? You've met my sister, haven't you, William?" "Yes," William said, his eyes meeting hers. They were steady. Lydia looked away first. "We're reconnecting. Long overdue, actually." He emphasized the word reconnecting. It implied a history, a shared past, a private life outside of her view. Lydia's voice was too loud, forced. "Reconnecting? What are you talking about? Evelyn, why didn't you say you knew William?" This was my chance. This was the moment of the shift. I took a deep breath. I looked at Lydia. I used the quiet voice William had suggested. The private voice. "You know me, Lydia," I said softly. I kept my eyes locked on hers. I keep my private life private. The effect was immediate. Lydia's jaw tightened. She was speechless for a fraction of a second. My words implied that I had a secret life, a life that was happening while she was too busy mocking my singleness. A life that included a tall, handsome, wealthy relative of her new husband. The silence at the table was heavy. People at nearby tables stopped talking. They were watching the bride and the mysterious sister. Lydia forced a laugh. It sounded like scraping metal. Private? Evelyn, you haven't dated anyone in years. You were talking to Aunt Carol about lowering your standards minutes ago. William stepped in. He moved his hand from my back to my elbow. He gave my arm a gentle squeeze. It was a clear signal. I am with her. Do not touch her. That's exactly it, Lydia, William said, his voice flat. Evelyn doesn't talk about her life in public. She's not an open book like some people. We've been friends for a long time. Just a quiet, long-distance connection. He looked down at me and gave me a warm, private smile. It felt real. It made my stomach flip. Lydia was furious. Her cheeks were bright red under her perfect makeup. Her plan was falling apart. She couldn't attack me anymore, because attacking me meant attacking William's choice. And William was Richard's family. Important family. She tried a different tactic. She became motherly. Fake concern. Well, that's just wonderful, Evelyn. Why didn't you mention him? We could have seated you properly. We could have given you a place at the family table. She was trying to blame me for sitting at the lonely seat. But I wasn't having it. I liked my table, I said simply. It was nice and quiet. Perfect for catching up. William squeezed my arm again. He nodded to Lydia. Evelyn's right. Table 12 is private. Perfect for us. Lydia knew she was losing. She tried one last time to regain control. She looked at Richard, who had just walked up behind her, looking confused and stressed. Richard, honey, look. William and Evelyn are finally reconnecting. Isn't that great? She practically yelled. Richard smiled weakly. Hi, William. Good to see you, Evelyn. He looked deeply uncomfortable. He knew his bride was creating a scene. William didn't let the moment pass. He looked at Richard. It is good. Evelyn and I have a lot to talk about. A lot to catch up on. She's a remarkable woman, Richard. I'm glad I found her tonight. The crowd was watching. The attention was not on the bride anymore. It was on me, the sister, the failure, who was suddenly standing next to a very impressive man. And the man was defending her. Lydia's eyes were narrowed. She was defeated for the moment. She couldn't stand there and argue with a cousin in front of her new husband and his family. She took a step back. Well then, that's nice. Enjoy your night, you two. We have to go cut the cake. She pulled Richard away sharply. I watched her go. She didn't look back. She looked furious. She looked like she had just lost a war. And I looked at William. He was still smiling. That's part one, he said, letting go of my arm. You did well, Evelyn. You were perfectly annoying, I laughed. It wasn't a fake laugh. It was a release. A sharp, surprised breath of relief. Why are you doing this? I asked him. The question was direct. He shrugged. He picked up his whiskey. He took a sip. 2 reasons. 1, Richard's family needs to know that Richard's cousin, William, is spoken for. I hate weddings. 2, nobody deserves to be treated like that. Especially not by family. I saw what she did with the bouquet. It was mean. It was cheap. He looked at me. His light brown eyes were serious now. You need a defender, Evelyn. I'm nominating myself. The waiter came back. He placed a tall, cold glass of champagne in front of me. I picked it up. My hand wasn't shaking anymore. William raised his whiskey glass. To the quiet ones, he said. The ones who keep their lives private. I clinked my glass against his. The sound was bright, sharp. For the first time all night, I took a sip of something that didn't taste like ashes. It tasted like cold bubbles. It tasted like sudden, unexpected power. I looked back at the head table. Lydia was still red-faced. She was busy cutting the cake, but she kept glancing over. Her eyes were burning holes in the back of my head. She was no longer looking at me with triumph. She was looking at me with jealousy. She saw me with the handsome man. She saw me controlling the situation. The shift was complete. I was no longer the humiliated sister. I was the mysterious woman with a secret life. And the secret was standing right next to me. William finished his whiskey. I was still sipping my champagne. The cold bubbles felt good on my tongue. I felt calmer now, but I was still ready for a fight. I knew Lydia was planning her next move. William stood up. He was a force. He didn't look at me when he spoke. He looked at the room. Dance with me, he said. It wasn't a question. It was a clear order. I hesitated. I don't really dance, William. He turned and held out his hand. His palm was open. Strong. Tonight you do, he insisted. We need to finish the performance. Get out there. Give them something to talk about. I took a deep breath. I put my champagne glass down. I took his hand. His skin was warm. He pulled me onto the dance floor. The music was slow, romantic. It was the kind of song that makes people look at each other. He placed his hand firmly at my waist. His grip was respectful, but it was also possessive. It felt safe. He guided me through the steps. I was rusty. I stumbled slightly. He just tightened his hold and kept us moving smoothly. We didn't talk much. We just swayed. I rested my head close to his shoulder. I felt the crisp linen of his suit jacket. I didn't have to look around to know we were being watched. I could feel the eyes. I could feel the attention shift away from the bridal party and toward us. This was not just a dance. This was a statement. I was not the lonely girl in the corner anymore. I was the woman who had brought a handsome, strong man to the party. A man who looked like he adored me. I looked up at William. "Thank you," I murmured. "This is unexpected." He looked down at me. He gave me a small, genuine smile. "You deserve one night without her games, Evelyn." I saw her then. Lydia. She was not dancing. She was standing with Richard near the cake table. She was watching us. Her face was dark. She looked like a thundercloud. She couldn't stand it. The attention was wrong. The narrative was wrong. She had to fix it. She started walking toward us. She moved like a snake, slowly, deliberately. Richard followed, looking nervous. They reached the edge of the dance floor. Lydia put a hand on William's arm. Her touch was possessive, even though it wasn't her wedding to him. "Mind if I cut in?" she asked. Her voice was too sweet, too high-pitched. It was the sound of fake politeness hiding sharp teeth. She was trying to break the moment. She wanted to separate us. She wanted to dance with William herself, to reclaim him for the family, to show me I was nothing. William stopped dancing. He didn't move his hand from my waist. He looked at Lydia. His eyes were cold, like chipped ice. "Actually, yes," William replied firmly. His voice was steady. It cut through the music. "We're having a moment." The hall seemed to stop. The music still played, but the chatter died down. People looked. People stared. Lydia's hand dropped from his arm. Her face went from dark red to white. She was used to being obeyed. She was used to people backing down when she used that sweet, cutting voice. She was used to me backing down. "A moment?" Lydia laughed again. That horrible scraping sound. "William, this is my wedding. We just wanted to welcome you to the family and to talk to Evelyn." "You had all night to welcome me," William said dismissively. He tightened his grip on my waist again. "And Evelyn and I have been talking for hours. If you wanted to talk to her, you could have sat with her at table 12. You chose not to." This was it. The public defense. He was calling her out. He was naming her cruelty. Lydia looked at Richard. Richard looked at the floor. He wanted to disappear. He did nothing to help his bride, or his cousin, or me. "That's enough, Lydia," William stated. He wasn't asking. He was telling her. "Go enjoy your husband. We will enjoy our dance." He started moving again. He turned his back on her. He pulled me into a close turn. We were dancing again, just like that. She was dismissed. Lydia stood there for 3 long seconds. She looked small. She looked humiliated. She finally turned and stumbled off the dance floor. Richard followed her, looking ashamed. I leaned back from William. I looked at his face. "You just humiliated the bride," I whispered. "No," he corrected me. "I protected my date. There's a difference. She humiliates herself when she acts like that." The anger I felt for Lydia was suddenly replaced by a huge wave of gratitude for William. He was a force field. He was the protection I had never had from my own family. The song ended. The DJ started a faster track. William didn't let go of my hand. He led me off the dance floor, but he didn't lead me back to table 12. He led me toward a small group of people. Richard's family. The important ones. The ones Lydia wanted to impress. He stopped near Richard's wealthy Uncle George and Aunt Martha. They were sitting at table 3. They looked rich. They looked judgmental. They had been watching the whole scene. William smiled at them. A charming, powerful smile. "Uncle George, Aunt Martha, I wanted you to meet Evelyn. We've known each other for a long time." I smiled. A real smile this time. A confident one. "Evelyn is a manager. Very successful," William continued. He was listing my achievements, not my failures. "But the real story is how my cousin Lydia treats her," Aunt Martha gasped. A quiet, dramatic sound. Uncle George frowned. "William, this is a wedding. What are you talking about?" William's expression turned serious. He lowered his voice, but it was still loud enough for everyone at that table to hear. "And maybe the next one." "Funny," he told them, his eyes sharp. "For a sister so concerned, you've spent more time mocking Evelyn tonight than celebrating her?" Silence fell over the small group. A heavy, shocking silence. He continued, his voice steady. He laid out the truth simply, directly. He didn't exaggerate. He just used facts. I watched it. The seating alone by the kitchen door. The comments about her age and singleness. The intentional miss during the bouquet toss. "That's not love, Uncle George. That's cruelty. And it's petty," Gasps rippled across the tables. These were Richard's family. They were loyal to Richard, but they hated bad behavior. They hated a lack of class. Uncle George looked at me. His face was unreadable. Evelyn, is this true? I did not have to lie. I did not have to cry. I did not have to be dramatic. I just used simple, honest words. Yes, Uncle George, I said. My voice was clear. It is all true. I was planning to leave when William intervened. Aunt Martha's hand went to her mouth. Oh, my word. Lydia would never. Lydia did. William finished for me. She did it publicly. And she did it because she is insecure. She wanted to prove she was better than Evelyn. She failed. All she proved was that she's mean. Richard shifted uncomfortably. He was standing nearby talking to his mother. He looked over and saw the scene. He saw William talking to his uncle and aunt. He looked scared. He knew William's word carried weight. Lydia's cheeks were bright red again. This time, it wasn't just embarrassment. It was burning shame. Her perfect wedding day was being ruined. Not by me, but by her own family, because of her own actions. She rushed over. She tried to interrupt. William, that's unfair. It's my wedding. You are being dramatic. Evelyn, tell him to stop! I looked at Lydia. I had been waiting for this moment my whole life. The moment she was helpless. The moment her control was gone. I didn't smile. I didn't yell. I was just quiet. I didn't ask him to start, Lydia, I said, and I won't ask him to stop. He is only telling the truth. I stood taller than I had all night. Taller than I had in years. I was standing next to William, but I was also standing up for myself. I felt a core of pure, solid strength I didn't know I possessed. Lydia stared at me. Her eyes were full of hatred. She realized she couldn't win. She couldn't fight me and William in front of her most important new relatives. Uncle George cleared his throat. He looked at Lydia. Lydia, if what William says is true, that is not acceptable behavior. You owe your sister an apology. Lydia looked small. For the first time, she looked like a child who had been caught stealing candy. She was defeated. She was cornered. Richard's mother, sensing the disaster, hurried over and put an arm around Lydia. It's been a long day. Everyone is tired. Let's not fight. It's the wedding day. She tried to smooth it over, but the damage was done. The truth was out. Richard's family knew the kind of person Lydia was. They saw her perform the perfect bride, and they heard about her perfect cruelty. William looked at me. He gave a slight nod. The job is done. He turned to Uncle George. We'll see you later, Uncle. We're going to get some air. He took my hand and led me away from the disaster zone. We walked past the head table. Mom was watching us. Her eyes were wide with shock. She looked proud, but also terrified. She finally saw me being protected, but she also saw the conflict. Dad was still looking at his plate. He still couldn't look up. He still couldn't face the mess his older daughter had made. As we walked toward the exit, I glanced back. Lydia was talking to Richard. She was whispering angrily. Her head was down. Her veil was crooked. She looked small. And I, the sister she mocked, stood taller than ever. I was walking out of the hall, arm in arm with a handsome, powerful man. I was leaving my humiliation behind. I was leaving her perfect disaster. William and I walked outside. The air was cool. It smelled like fresh grass and night dew. It was a relief to be away from the heat and the noise. We stood under a tree, away from the venue lights. Are you okay, Evelyn? William asked. His voice was soft now, not the cold, firm voice he used for Lydia. I am, I said. I was surprised by the truth of it. The pain was still there, but it was distant, replaced by a strange, quiet power. I feel lighter. Thank you, William. You don't need to thank me, he said. He looked at the sky. She was just a bully. Bullies only stop when someone makes them. You had every right to be angry. We stood in silence for a few minutes. It was comfortable silence. The first truly easy moment I had felt all night. Then, the DJ's voice boomed from inside the hall. It was loud, even from outside. All right, everyone. Time for the final tradition. The garter toss, I sighed. More games, I murmured. William looked at the doors. He looked at me. A smile played on his lips. It was a mischievous smile. We have to go back in, Evelyn, he said. No, William. Please, I can't handle another performance. No, this time we perform, he insisted. You need the final scene. She started this story. We finish it. He didn't wait for me to agree. He took my hand again and led me back inside. Lydia was already on the dance floor. She looked calmer, but her eyes darted nervously. She was looking for us. She looked relieved when she saw us walk in. Relieved that we didn't leave completely. Richard was sitting in a chair, center stage. Lydia lifted her dress, showing off her silk garter. The crowd was gathered. Richard was blindfolded. The music was jazzy. He fumbled under the layers of tulle and silk. He finally found the garter. He pulled it off quickly. The crowd cheered. The DJ took the garter. Now, gentlemen, All the single men on the floor? Let's see who catches the garter. Who is next to be married? The single men came forward. Richard's friends. Some older cousins, not many. Maybe 8 men. William looked at me. Stay right here, he commanded softly. He walked onto the dance floor. He was taller than the other men. He stood out. The DJ announced, "Single guys. Catch this and you'll be next." The DJ threw the garter high up in the air. It was a small, delicate thing. It spun wildly. The men jumped. They reached. They shouted. William didn't jump high. He just extended his arm. He was calm. He was deliberate. He caught the garter with ease. It landed perfectly in his hand. The music stopped. The crowd roared. William held the garter up. Lydia looked shocked. She hadn't planned for William to be a participant. She hadn't planned for him to win. The DJ, always ready for a gag, pointed to William. "The winner, William!" "Now you know the rule, William. You have to place the garter on the woman who caught the bouquet. Where is the lucky lady?" The girl, Madison, the 16-year-old cousin who caught the flowers, had already left the dance floor. She was shy. She was nowhere to be seen. The DJ searched the crowd. "Madison? Where is Madison?" William didn't wait. He walked straight toward me. He didn't hesitate. He was focused. He stopped in front of me. He looked directly at the DJ. He spoke clearly, his voice carrying over the microphone. "Looks like it's Evelyn," William announced. The entire hall went silent. Pin drop silent. Lydia let out a small, sharp sound. A sound of disbelief. William knelt before me. He was on one knee. He held the white garter in his strong hands. It was the pose of a proposal. It was the ultimate public gesture. I stood there, stunned. My cheeks were hot again, but this time it was from shock and a profound electric joy. He looked up at me. His eyes held a challenge and a promise. He carefully lifted the hem of my dress. He didn't look vulgar. He looked respectful. He slipped the garter gently onto my thigh. It was a symbolic act. It sealed the moment. The crowd went wild. They cheered. They clapped. The noise was deafening. They loved the drama. They loved the twist. They loved the idea of the handsome, wealthy man choosing the woman who had been humiliated moments before. Lydia's face was a masterpiece of total defeat. Her eyes were burning with rage and loss. This was the moment that was supposed to cement my failure. Instead, it had transformed into my moment of triumph. I looked down at William. He stood up. He smiled. He didn't kiss me. He just took my hand. He led me through the roaring, clapping crowd. We didn't look back at Lydia. There was no need. She was irrelevant. The show was over. And I had won. We walked out of the hall for the final time. We walked to my car. It was parked far away in the dark lot. We reached the driver's side. I stopped. "William," I said. "Tonight was impossible." He leaned against my car door. "It was necessary, Evelyn. You needed to breathe." I pulled my car key out of my purse. My hand was shaking slightly now. The adrenaline was leaving my body. "I need to know one thing," I said. "Why me? You didn't know me." "You could have saved anyone." He looked at me directly. His eyes were steady. "Tonight wasn't pretend for me," he said quietly. "Lydia is cruel, but you are strong. I saw you holding it together at that table. I saw the quiet fire in your eyes when she attacked you. You didn't cry. You didn't run. You stayed and you fought. I respect that." He reached out and gently touched my cheek. "I'm not interested in the drama. I'm interested in the woman. Call me Evelyn, not for revenge, just because you want to." He handed me a small, heavy card. It had his name and a simple phone number. No company name, just him. He turned and walked away. He walked back toward the lights, but he didn't look back. I got into my car. I put my head on the steering wheel. I let out a long, shuddering breath. I didn't cry. I was exhausted. But I felt something new. Hope. A real, solid feeling of I am going to be okay. I didn't call him the next day, or the day after. I needed time to process. I needed to know I was calling him for me, not for the victory. Not for the show. I waited 3 days. Then I called. Simple. Direct. "It's Evelyn," I said. "I know," he replied. His voice was warm. We had coffee the next weekend. We talked for 4 hours. We talked about books. We talked about our jobs. We talked about how much we hated family drama. He didn't ask about Lydia. I didn't mention her. The wedding was the spark. But the real connection was quiet. It was steady. It was real. Months later, we were dating. It was a grown-up relationship. Simple, honest. We went to the quiet places. We stayed away from family events. We built our own space. A year later, he proposed. Not with a garter. Not in front of a crowd. It was quiet. It was in my apartment. Over a simple dinner I cooked. He knelt, not for show, but for love. And I said yes. We got married 6 months after that. We chose a small ceremony. 30 people. Close friends. My parents came. They were quiet. They looked relieved. They finally saw me happy. They finally saw me with a good man. They finally saw me win. Lydia and Richard were invited. They did not come. Lydia sent a short text to Mom. Too busy. It was a lie. It was her final act of anger. I didn't care. Her absence was a gift. It was peace. She watched from afar, fuming. Her plan to disgrace me delivered me into the arms of the man who became my future, Richard's own cousin. That was the perfect silent twist. I learned a simple lesson that night. I was a victim of her meanness for a long time, but I realized that being a victim is not about what they do to you. It's about what you choose to do next. I chose peace. I chose quiet power. I chose William. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's living the life they swore you'd never have. It's walking away from the shame and into your own bright, quiet future. If you've ever been humiliated by family, remember, silence can be your strongest weapon, and karma never misses. Drop your story in the comments. Like this video, subscribe for more stories of betrayal, revenge, and poetic justice.